In the ultimate analysis, it is the language of great legends and great masters and teachers which move and get molded are an extended conversation by them with their disciples which will win at the end of the day. So there are some great masters from Buddhism who told much about the reality of life than actually we think. After all, reality is a question of perspective. The further you get from the past, the more concrete and plausible it seems. But as you approach the present, it inevitably seems more and more incredible. It depends upon our observation. Approximately 2000 years ago, when Buddhism was initially introduced into China, it was under the ministry known as Honglu Temple. This temple was actually a government department that handled national affairs. Today, however, the word temple primarily has religious connotations. As Master Ching Kung explains, Buddhism is an education and not a religion. Thus, the use of the word temple can become confusing as to which context we are referring to. That means the definition of a temple we can pursue that a place where great things are planned about the society, about the development of an individual, in general, the putting up the culture required to the society and the vibrations required to the society. In an attempt to keep this confusion minimum, we will use the word instead of temple, a way place, unless the word is part of the institution's name or we are specifying a place that Buddhists use for religious purpose. Here I am discussing about this great man's words about changing destiny. Changing destiny, is it in your hands? Many people think that changing destiny is not in our hands. It is, after all, predetermined. Life goes according to it. It is here this legendary master differed and taught four important lessons for every human being to change their destiny. Number one, the first lesson is learning to change destiny and desire to change your destiny. First of all, you should have a desire. But this desire should have a burn. The burn must lead your brain to learn the course of changing the destiny. If you meet an elderly or distinguished gentleman, nothing wrong in interacting with him, how he has molded his life. Immediately, he may say something to you. You are destined only to that level, but never coming to a conclusive part of your life that you cannot change more. First of all, we must learn, we must develop the desire of learning how to reform. That's why the second lesson is we must learn ways to reform. See, divided into several small nations, when it has become a big country, prestigious advisors of these nations were able to accurately predict whether a person's future would be fortunate or unfortunate, sometimes based on logic, sometimes based on some mystical thinking. But definitely, it is in your hands if you learn to reform. This reform process requires estimating yourselves, evaluating yourselves, your personality by yourself, and what is the reform required, what are the policies, what is the style of life you have to change, where you have to change in a fast way, where we have to change in with a slower pace. All this logical determinism and all this logical discussion must take place in our brains in the progressing of or traveling in the path of changing the destiny. The third lesson is we must learn the ways to cultivate goodness. Of course, goodness, the word which has got a very deeper connotation. It may be, the definition may be changing from time to time. In a particular century, which is good, may not be good in another century, or in a particular generation, which is good, the other generation may feel it is bad. But here, the goodness, the definition which we have to learn is acceptability of the society. That means thinking, behaving, working within the acceptable norms of the society, or in the social justice, or a dharma, or a truth, or a truth path, a path of the truth. That will be goodness. That has to be cultivated by every individual. Then the process of changing your destiny will be in the form, and it will start moving very fast. The last and final lesson we have to learn is we must realize the virtue of humility. In every culture, including Indian culture, a Buddhist culture, or a Sikh culture, any religion, Mohammedan culture, every culture may be patronized by a religion or may not be patronized by religion, has advocated thoroughly the virtue of humility. Humility is a process. Humility is a cultivable habit that we should never think that we are the great or we are the knowledgeable. We are the great learners or great scholars, because after all, the scholarship or knowledge, all these things have infinite paths and infinite destinations and infinite frontiers. To cross one frontier, always we must think there are so many other frontiers we must cross, we must win. That means the humbleness must be cultivated in our minds, that what we know is very limited to some extent, which according to the grasping power of our brain, our and habits of hard work. There, the real position of humility starts and make you humble with all humility. Humility is never a weakness. Humility is always a virtue. And these four lessons will definitely make any young individual to travel in the correct path of mending himself in a proper way to change his destiny. Thank you very much.